Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or The Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going in depth into my week number 5 running back start or sit decisions. Inside today's video, I'll be talking about every single matchup from Thursday Night Football all the way until Monday Night Football, and I'll be telling you guys whether I believe you should start or sit the running backs in all of those games. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. And if you do want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at Notorious FNTSY. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 5 running back start or sit decisions. We begin with Thursday Night Football, the Indianapolis Colts at the Denver Broncos. Now, if this game was played in week number 4 last week, it would have been a no-brainer to fire up Javonte Williams as well as Jonathan Taylor in this game, but sadly, both of them are hurt and are going to be missing this game. Javonte is out for the season with a torn ACL as well as some other injuries to his knee. Jonathan Taylor didn't end up actually having a severe injury, so he should be back next week. But since this game is being played on Thursday Night Football, it is extremely unlikely that Jonathan Taylor plays, and I assume that he is going to be out. So the only start-worthy running back now in this game with Jonathan Taylor and Javonte Williams hurt is Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon, despite the fact that this man has a severe case of fumbleitis, is going to be the clear workhorse lead back on the Denver Broncos. Now, I understand they bring in Latavius Murray, who played on Sunday with the New Orleans Saints in England, but Melvin Gordon is much better than Latavius is right now. He's much better than Mike Boone is. So there's really no way that Melvin Gordon isn't going to be the bell cow back for this team. Melvin Gordon was a pest to Javonte Williams, but Mike Boone and Latavius Murray aren't skilled enough to be that pest for Melvin Gordon unless the team really doesn't like Melvin Gordon. He keeps fumbling, and then eventually one of them becomes the starting running back on the team. But for week number 5 strictly, up against the Indianapolis Colts, I think you can roll out Melvin Gordon with confidence. Now, I'm not saying that Melvin Gordon is going to be a top 10 running back, a top 12 running back in this game. I think that would be a little bit crazy to assume. But will he finish inside of the top 24? 100%, so I'm definitely starting him here. Jonathan Taylor is out, and Jonathan Taylor has been a fucking disaster for fantasy owners this season. They drafted him number 1 overall. I was confident in Jonathan Taylor, and he has slapped me in the face like his name was Will Smith, and it hurts a ton. So if Jonathan Taylor wasn't very successful with the Colts, is Nyheim Hines or Phillip Lindsay going to be that successful? Probably not. Now, if you are in a deeper league, could you roll out Nyheim Hines because he's going to catch a couple of passes, or maybe if you're down bad at running back? Sure. But in a normal league, do you want to start Nyheim Hines this week? Of course not, and Phillip Lindsay will be kind of filtering in a little bit. Again, Latavius Murray and Mike Boone are sits for me. Melvin Gordon is the only running back I'm comfortable starting in this game. Next up, we move to the England matchup of the New York Football Giants going up against the Green Bay Packers in London. Saquon Barkley is an auto start in this matchup. Now, it appears that Daniel Jones as well as Tyrod Taylor will not be cleared to play in this game. More than likely, obviously, on Sunday, something could change. That's something maybe you want to monitor. But even if Jake Fromm ends up being the starting quarterback in this game, or whoever it is, I think you can still rely on Saquon Barkley, because even in that game when Daniel Jones and Tyrod Taylor was out, Saquon Barkley still had a fantastic game. Saquon Barkley right now looks like the best running back in the NFL. If you got him in the 2nd or 3rd round of your fantasy football draft, you are laughing directly to the bank right now. The Packers defense did not look very good up against the run last week of the New England Patriots, so I definitely think Saquon Barkley gets it done easily up against the Green Bay Packers. For the Packers, Aaron Jones as well as A.J. Dillon are start worthy. Now, there are going to be some games where Jones is clearly the guy. There's going to be some games where Dillon is clearly the guy. There's going to be some games where neither of them really do anything. And there's going to be games where both of them do something. Last week, we did see that Aaron Jones outscored A.J. Dillon, but it wasn't by this crazy wide margin. Now, in my opinion, A.J. Dillon is not the better player on this team. Aaron Jones is, but it almost just appears like whoever is the freshest, whoever is in and gets that touchdown, is really going to be the guy that outscores the other one. Right now, I do have Aaron Jones ranked higher than A.J. Dillon because, again, I believe he is the more talented player. But would it surprise me on any given week if A.J. Dillon outscored Aaron Jones? No. So it makes them both very annoying every single week. But at the end of the day, I'm going to play both of them, but I am much more comfortable with Aaron Jones. The Giants will use Matt Breida at points in the game, but that's more when Saquon Barkley needs his fucking inhaler or something on the sideline because he's in the game for so long. I don't think he actually uses an inhaler like he's Treylon Burks or something. But when Matt Breida, or when Saquon Barkley's tired, then we'll see a little bit of Matt Breida, but in reality, he's not a start-worthy running back. Next up, we move to the real Sunday slate, the 1 o'clock state of Eastern Standard Time, or 1 o'clock slate Eastern Standard Time, the Pittsburgh Steelers at the no one circles the wagons, like the Buffalo Bills. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers announced today, Mike Tomlin announced that Kenny Pickett is going to be the starting quarterback on the team. Sadly, the kiss and titties Mitchell Trubisky era in Steelers, or in Pittsburgh, not in Steelers, in Pittsburgh is over. It's over, and that's sad for me who loves kiss and titties Mitchell Trubisky, but in reality, doesn't really have the biggest effect on Najee Harris. Maybe it's slightly more positive because Kenny Pickett is a little bit better. I mean, Mitch Trubisky can't throw to the middle of the field, or one side of the field he can't throw to as well. So I think that could open up the field more for Najee Harris, and maybe Najee Harris sees more dump-offs because Kenny Pickett's a little bit nervous. He's a rookie. He sees, hey, Najee will catch the ball. He saw Big Ben do it a million times last year. I'll just dump it off to Najee Harris. That is definitely entirely possible. This matchup up against the Buffalo Bills scares the ever-living shit out of me. Am I starting Najee Harris? Yes. Do I have him ranked anywhere close to the top 12? No, he's still going to be a decent running back 2, a low-end running back 2 on the week, closer to like running back 20, but he's a guy I'm still going to have to roll out there. I do, though, feel a little bit more comfortable with Najee Harris compared to Devin Singletary. Over the last couple of weeks, Devin Singletary has certainly turned things around. The Pittsburgh Steelers defense is a shell of themselves without TJ Watt. TJ Watt is really the heartbeat of that offense. JJ Watt, I hope he's okay. He had problems with his heart, but he ended up playing on Sunday. Devin Singletary is just an okay start, but again, he's not one of the guys that I'm going to be banging the drum aggressively for. Jaylen Warren is a sit because it's pretty clear that Najee Harris is the bell cow, and Mike Tomlin loves to use a bell cow back, and then Zach Moss will kind of be sprinkled into the games at points, but is he really going to push Devin Singletary out of his starting position? Most likely not. Next up, we move to the LA Chargers at the Cleveland Browns. In this game, we need to give a huge round of applause to Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler, for weeks, was kind of annoying for fantasy, right? He wasn't having those crazy games that we were used to from last season. And even in these more positive matchups, Eckler wasn't really doing too much, and he wasn't seeing as many carries as we are used to. But last week up against the Houston Texans, he absolutely dicked that defense down. He had his best game of the season, and up against the Cleveland Browns, will he replicate exactly what he did last week? Probably not, but could he finish inside of the top 5 at the running back position? 100%. In my opinion, both Eckler and Nick Chubb could easily be top 3 running backs, maybe even running back 1 and 2 at the end of the week. Now, Nick Chubb was a guy that during the draft process for fantasy football this offseason, I called him boring. 9-inch Nicholas Chubb to me was boring because Kareem Hunt was still there to take the passes away, and I really did think that Jacoby Brissett was an absolute dumpster fire of a quarterback. I saw him last year. I'm a Dolphins fan. He was the quarterback for the Dolphins when Tua Tagovailoa was hurt last year, and the guy was fucking trash. But magically, now that he's on the Cleveland Browns and he doesn't have that Dolphin stink all over him, he's playing great. So congratulations to the people that bought in on Nick Chubb. Now, I have Nick Chubb on a couple of fantasy leagues because he fell so far in drafts, but I wasn't overwhelmingly excited about him, whereas right now, I am elated. I am ecstatic to start 9-inch Nicholas Chubb and throw him into my lineup, though I will warn that this game reeks of a Kareem Hunt matchup because the Chargers should be up in this game, and it's harder to just hand the ball off a million times when you're up, so they're going to have to throw, and Kareem Hunt will be in for those situations. But again, I am still much more comfortable playing Nick Chubb compared to Kareem Hunt. Now, the Chargers this year have been using more running backs than they did last year. Last year, it really was just the Austin Eckler Express. Now, this year, they use a couple of other running backs as well, like Sony Michel. But at the end of the day, unless Austin Eckler got hurt, knock on wood, we don't root for injuries, none of these other running backs in LA will be very useful. Next up, we got the Houston Texans at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, last week, I was banging the drum, banging the table aggressively for James Robinson. I told everyone and their fucking mother to play James Robinson. James Robinson was on a hot streak. He was heating up NBA Jam style. He was on fire, basically, NBA Jam style, and he shit the bed. And it wasn't just him shitting the bed. He shit on the bed, your bed, and then he went to your mom's room, took a shit in her bed, took a shit in your cat's, litter box? Yeah, he just took a shit everywhere, okay? Because James Robinson was a disgrace last week. Because I'm sure we all knew that Jamal Agnew was going to blow up in that game, right? Everyone knew that. But hey, James Robinson having one bad game doesn't scare me. I'm not thinking, oh my God, the James Robinson empire that I've talked up, it's collapsed. It's over. No. One bad game doesn't skew me when you are as talented as James Robinson. I thought going into the season that James Robinson, coming off of that injury that he sustained so deep into last season, that, you know what, maybe Travis Etienne will be given the opportunity to be the lead back. But James Robinson, from week 1 on, has just taken this job and clearly been the better running back out of the two. So don't panic on James Robinson. He has one bad game. Just shrug it off. It is what it is. Maybe he screwed you over, fucked you directly in the ass last week. But guess what? He's got a bounce back spot, a perfect bounce back spot up against the garbage ass Houston Texans defense. You better believe James Robinson will be inside of the top 12 of my running back rankings. I love him this week. Don't be afraid just because of one bad game. Dameon Pierce, hallelujah. Another great performance out of a running back that I touted very highly all offseason. I love Dameon Pierce. I was touting him when on Underdog Fantasy, the sponsor of today's video. This motherfucker was like an 11th round pick, and I touted him the whole entire time. I kept kind of rowing the boat on Dameon Pierce, and he becomes a 5th round pick, a 6th round pick in some leagues, a 4th round pick. And I still kept taking him because I knew that Rex Burkhead was no threat at all. Week 1, Rex Burkhead has a good game, and everyone panics. Everyone gets worried. But guess what? Dameon Pierce is that guy for the Houston Texans, and he's going to continue to be that. I love Dameon Pierce. The matchup up against the Jaguars isn't the best, but I still think Dameon Pierce is a decent start this week. Rex Burkhead really doesn't do anything for me at all. Dameon Pierce is the guy. And like I said, Travis Etienne, I think I said this last week, is the best handcuff in fantasy football. The problem is you have to pay like the 4th or 5th round draft capital to get him. Next up, we got the Chicago Bears at the Minnesota Vikings. Now, last week, another player that I was drastically wrong on was Khalil Herbert of the Chicago Bears. I touted Khalil Herbert highly last week. I thought, oh man, they're going to get in this run-heavy matchup with the Giants. And I was partially right because Saquon Barkley ran a train on the Bears defense. Khalil Herbert was just okay. He wasn't as good as I thought. He wasn't awful, though. It wasn't like he destroyed your team if you played him, but you would have hoped for better. Now, in my opinion, I do not think David Montgomery will play in this game. The Vikings defense is tough, but I still do think that Khalil Herbert is the clear lead back on this team without David Montgomery, and the team still wants to run the ball. Now, Darnell Mooney is getting slightly better. They're starting to look his way, but they still want to run the ball at an aggressively high rate, so Khalil Herbert is the guy, assuming, again, that David Montgomery does not play. Dalvin Cook has looked like an awful pick. Now, the Vikings team as a whole has been good, but Dalvin Cook hasn't been the best. I think if there was ever a game for Dalvin Cook to get back on the saddle and drop one of those normal Dalvin Cook performances where he scores like 25 plus points, maybe gets like 30 plus points, would be here up against the Chicago Bears defense that, like I said, got a train ran on them by Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley could have fucking closed his eyes. He could have put a handkerchief over his eyes and still ran for over 100 yards. The Chicago Bears defense is as soft as baby shit, and I expect Dalvin Cook to cook him up Gordon Ramsay style. Tristan Ebner would be the handcuff for Khalil Herbert. He's not a start. Alexander Mattison, that sneaky bastard, could potentially hop into the end zone, but unless Dalvin Cook is hurt, knock on wood, we don't root for injuries, then Alexander Mattison most of the time is just going to be on the bench. Next up, we got the Detroit Lions at the New England Deflatriots. Here, my assumption again is that DeAndre Swift is going to miss. It seemed as though when we got the injury diagnosis last week that DeAndre Swift would be out not only last week, but most likely this week and potentially another game after that. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'll never claim to be a doctor. But what I'm telling you is based upon what I've read, I don't think that DeAndre Swift is going to play. I just relay what I have read. Jamal with 2 A's Williams. Oh man, he took the Seattle Seahawks to pound town in all caps. In all caps. Jamal Williams went off. Now, I joked during the game, if you remember, I think Jamal Williams scored on 4th down. They gave him like a million chances on the goal line. He couldn't get in. And I tweeted, you know what's funny? That if DeAndre Swift was in the game, Jamal Williams probably would already have 2 touchdowns. Obviously, Jamal Williams has a fan-fucking-tastic performance up against the Seahawks. Now, the Patriots' defense is pretty decent. They didn't look the best up against the Green Bay Packers running backs last week, and Jamal Williams is the clear workhorse running back there when DeAndre Swift is out, so I want to be firing up Jamal Williams with my supreme confidence. Craig Reynolds is going to get carries. He's going to maybe catch a couple passes. It is what it is. Maybe he'll even steal a touchdown away from Jamal Williams, but at the end of the day, based upon what I saw last week and what I've seen out of Jamal Williams, even when DeAndre Swift is healthy, Jamal Williams is viable, and maybe when DeAndre Swift comes back, we might still want to start Jamal Williams in deeper leagues, but again, I think DeAndre Swift is out for this game. Both Damian Harris as well as Ramondre Stevenson have been pretty decent thus far this season. Neither of them have really broke away from the other one. Damian Harris is looking pretty solid. Stevenson also looking pretty solid. Now, as a whole, do I want to heavily invest in the Patriots offense most weeks when Mac Jones isn't there and we're either going to get Zappe or Brian Hoyer? Probably not, but because they're playing the Lions and the Lions offense is amazing, but their defense, not amazing at all. Like, they've scored the most points in the National Football League, but their defense just allows so many more points that it doesn't even matter. It's kind of sad if you're a Lions fan, right? It's like, fuck, this offense is so good. The defense is awful. So I think Harris and Stevenson get it done. But again, these are guys, like, I like Jamal Williams significantly more than Damian Harris and Stevenson. If I had to pick one or the other, I think I would pick Harris over Stevenson. But again, that's only by like a hair. I'm not just proclaiming that Harris is significantly better than Stevenson. So Jamal Williams, Damian Harris, and Ramondre Stevenson are all starts for me in this matchup. Next up, we move to the Seattle Seahawks at the New Orleans Saints. Now, I am assuming that Alvin Kamara is going to play on Sunday. I know there were some people that decided not to wake up prior to the Sunday London game at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and they got a big, fat dud from Alvin Kamara. So I will warn, make sure you pay attention, because last week on Saturday night when they elevated Latavius Murray, that kind of elevated red signals in my brain saying, oh, maybe Kamara might not play. Or if Kamara does play, he's not going to be at full strength. Now this week they get the Seahawks, so even peg leg Alvin Kamara on one fucking leg could destroy the Seahawks defense. I'm hoping Kamara comes back, because Kamara has been a disaster for fantasy football players this season. Kamara was a guy that I really liked because it seemed like everyone was being a pussy about drafting him, right? Because, oh my God, he might go to jail, and he wasn't actually going to go to jail, but oh my God, he might get suspended, and then he's not going to get suspended this season, but you know, that's karma, I guess, because I thought I could dodge and weave the suspension when in reality he's just always fucking hurt. So you hate to see that. Rashad Penny, excellent performance up against the Lions. I said Penny was not a start last week. I didn't tout him as a start, but I said that I do understand how he could have a good game because this could be a higher scoring game because the Lions defense isn't very good. That was the case. Penny feasted. The Saints defense is better than the Lions defense, obviously. Penny is a sit, but he is extremely close to being a start. For instance, if you thought, oh, I want to play Penny over Harris or Ramondre Stevenson, or maybe I want to play Penny over Devin Singletary, then I'm not going to have a big argument with you because they're close to me. But Penny ultimately gets the knock because I give the other guys the slight edge. Kenneth Walker the third, Sir Kenneth Walker the third of the Seattle Seahawks is a sit for me. It seems like Penny's the guy. Mock Ingram the second of the Saints is a sit, again, assuming that Alvin Kamara is able to suit up. Next up, we got the Miami Dolphins at the New York Jumbo Jets. But before we break down this game at the running back position, I would like to ask that if you guys have ended up enjoying thus far, do you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below, as well as hitting that like button. It would help me out a ton. And I would also like to give you guys a quick word from our friends and our sponsor over at Underdog Fantasy. I'm pointing at them right now. They've been on your screen this whole entire video, and I even mentioned them a little bit earlier. Now, Underdog recently released a brand new best ball contest, the Best Ball Resurrection from week 6 through week 17 of the fantasy football season. Now, if you've never played best ball before, if you don't know what it is, it's basically the fun of fantasy football. You draft your team, but you don't have to worry about the annoying parts of fantasy football, like calling up your buddy, trying to make a trade. He's too busy watching his kid. What a loser, right? Not ready to talk fantasy football trades. And then, you can't get anything done. Well, you don't have to worry about trades. There are no trades. There's no staying up on Tuesday trying to figure out who to pick up off the waiver wire, because there is no waiver wire. And you don't even have to worry about making the wrong decision, starting the wrong running back, and getting fucked because you started the wrong running back, because Underdog will automatically set your lineup for you at the end of the week with the highest scores. And their Best Ball Resurrection tournament is only $10 to enter, with $100,000 going to first place and $500,000 in total prizes. They also offer NBA, MLB, PGA, and NHL, so it's not just NFL on there. So make sure you guys do check that out. Promo code Stokastic for a $100 first match deposit bonus. So you deposit $100, they will give you an additional $100, which is 10 free entries into that Best Ball Resurrection tournament. I am going to personally, this weekend when I have some more spare time, I'm not doing all these videos, I'm going to sit down and do a bunch of those drafts so I can try to take down that $100,000 prize in the Best Ball Resurrection tournament. You deposit $100, they give you an additional $100, and that's 10 free entries into that tournament. So make sure you guys do go ahead and check it out. I love Underdog. I draft on there all the time. That's why I'm telling you guys to join it, because I genuinely think that it is a fun time. Back to it, though, the Dolphins at the Jumbo Jets. Here, I'm going to fire up Breece Hall. Breece Hall has undeniably taken the reins from Michael Carter, and I was worried last week. I was like, okay, we're going to see what Breece Hall can do with Zach Wilson, the MILF Hunter, under center before I plant my flag at Breece Hall and tout him as a start every week. Now, I understand that the Steelers' run defense without TJ Watt isn't the best, but I really just wanted to see, hey, is Zach Wilson going to target this guy? Is he going to look more towards Michael Carter? How does the offense as a whole shift from Joe Flacco, cool Joe Flacco, to Zach Wilson? And it seems like Breece Hall is still going to be viable. The Dolphins' run defense looked good against Joe Mixon, but that might just be because Joe Mixon might not be the best right now, and the offensive line's a little bad. I don't know. We'll talk about Joe Mixon later. He's a start-worthy running back. Don't worry, I'm not just bashing fucking this guy in the back of the head with a frying pan or something. But Joe Mixon didn't look the best. I think Breece Hall gets it done. I'm not really going to say he's like a top 12 back, but I do think he's definitely start-worthy up against the Dolphins. Now, the Dolphins have a variety of running backs. They have Raheem the Dream Mostert and Chase Edmonds. Now, with Teddy Tugs under center, I do genuinely believe that they are going to look to run the football more. Going into the 2022 season, most people thought, hey, Mike McDaniel is coming from the Kyle Shanahan system. That means that this team is going to want to run the ball, because that's what Shanahan does. Close your eyes, run the fucking football, win the game. Don't make any mistakes throwing the ball. People are like, okay, that's what Mr. Mike McDaniel is going to do. Mr. Mike McD is going to do. And instead, they're trying to pass the ball a lot more. But now, they're going from Tua, who I think the Dolphins trust immensely, to Teddy, who the Dolphins also trust because they paid the money to get him, but not the same as Tua, so maybe they're going to look to run the ball more. That's kind of my thought process on things. That's kind of how I see things. Now, could I be wrong? Could Teddy just be throwing deep fucking bombs to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle all game? Definitely, because they're going to be open. But I do also think they're going to look for a more run-heavy approach until Tua returns. When will Tua return? Nick, you're a Dolphins fan. I have no idea. I literally have no idea. He could return next week. He might not return until the bye. That's kind of my thought process on things, but I do think both Mostert and Edmonds are extremely interesting in this game, but I think ranking them super highly is crazy. Right now, it seems like Mostert is the guy. That's kind of my take on things. But would it surprise me if Edmonds catches, like, he made one mistake last week, like he didn't catch that touchdown pass from Tua. That kind of sunk the ship for him, but if he scored a touchdown in this game, would it surprise me? No. Right now, though, I firmly do believe Mostert is the guy, but he's not the guy by like a mile. He's just slightly more the guy than Edmonds. Next up, we got the Atlanta Falcons at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Sad news out of the TB12 camp, as it appears that Tom Brady and Giselle are going to get divorced. Now, I hope for Giselle's sake that she got that prenup, because Tom Brady is about to leave with half your fucking money. Now, obviously, that's a joke. I don't think Tom Brady's going to take half of Giselle's money, but it was always funny to see people talk about how, oh, Giselle has more money than Tom, and it's like, oh, Tom, you bitch, you don't make more money than your wife, who fucking cares, right? I'm sure they were just happy with the money they have, but they're probably not just happy right now, because it seems like they're going to be getting a bit of a divorce. And last week, I was starting to think that maybe I need to get divorced with fucking Uncle Lenny Fournette, that motherfucker. Because, oh my God, why is Rachaad White getting all these touches? Oh my God, where the fuck's Lenny? And then Lenny, from out of nowhere, like an RKO from Randy Orton. Watch out, watch out, bang! Leonard Fournette scores a touchdown at the end of the game, saving our ass. Saving our ass. Thank God. Thank the fantasy football lords above that Leonard Fournette scored, because I already knew. I touted Leonard Fournette so hard on the Stokastic DFS channel. Make sure you guys watch that Sunday Night Football Live Before Lock on there every single Sunday before Sunday Night Football. But I was really touting Lenny. I was like, oh man, Lenny's going to have a big game. And then Rachaad White kind of peeked his fucking head out, screwed me over a little bit. But hey, I think going forward, you still want to trust Leonard Fournette. This Falcons defense is, as I would say, no bueno for the Falcons defense, especially after Tom's getting divorced. Tom is about to unleash hell on the Falcons defense. I think Uncle Lenny has a good game. Rachaad White, definitely rosterable, but not a guy I want to be starting unless Lenny goes down. Knock on wood. Again, we ain't rooting for injuries. Tyler Algier would appear to be the guy for the Atlanta Falcons right now, because Cordero Patterson is on IR. Sadly, my boy Cordero Patterson goes down with an injury, but it appears that Arthur Smith has said that, hey, we think Cordero Patterson's going to be back sooner than later, so after the 4 weeks is done of him on the IR, based on what he said. Now, obviously, when coaches say shit, it's not always correct, but I'm assuming he's not fucking lying straight to my face. That means hopefully Patterson will return soon after the IR, which is 4 weeks. Tyler Algier is the guy. Now, if this was up against a different defense, for instance, against the Browns last week, I would have said, okay, we're going to fire up Tyler Algier. But instead, they get the Buccaneers run defense that I know Clyde Edwards-Helaire looked good against them, but there's a big difference between Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Tyler fucking Algier. I hope Tyler Algier has a good game. I think he's still worthy of a waiver wire ad, but here, up against the Bucs defense, don't be doing that. Same thing goes with Caleb Huntley, who saw a decent amount of touches after Cordero Patterson went down in that matchup. Next up, we move to the Les Titans at the Washington Commanders, and in this game, I'm going to keep things short and simple. Keep things short and simple, stupid, like Kyler Murray. We're going to go ahead and go with Derrick Henry in this game. Derrick Henry is unleashed. Derrick Henry was going absolutely fucking crazy last week. Absolutely banana lands. You see the Titans go onto the screen on Red Zone, and you just know instantly that Derrick Henry is about to stiff arm some motherfucker directly into the dirt 6 feet under. Derrick Henry was going crazy in that game. People were panicking about Henry early on in the season, if you remember. People were getting worried. I said, don't panic. Don't panic yet. Like, if he has a couple of bad games in a row, then sure, panic. But after 2 games when he plays the Bills and all that, it is what it is. And I was correct. I was correct to not piss myself, to not shit myself. I was fine. I told you guys to wait. Hopefully everyone waited with Derrick Henry, didn't trade him for a used condom, because Derrick Henry is in for a big matchup up against the Washington Commanders. Dontrell Hillier's the handcuff. He's a sit. Antonio Gibson has been getting worse and worse and worse every week. It seems like Brian Robinson could be returning very, very soon up against the Titans defense. Look, the Titans defense isn't necessarily like the 85 Bears, right? They're not the best defense out there. But I just struggle to believe in Antonio Gibson this week. He's not outside the top 32, so he's not necessarily like a shit stain this week. Like, he's not awful, but Definitely don't really want to be starting him. JD McKisson Titties is also a sit. Next up, we got the San Francisco 49ers at the Carolina Panthers. The San Francisco 49ers on Monday Night Football whipped out a can of whoop ass on the Rams. Jimmy Garoppolo is the owner of the Rams, unless it's in the playoffs like we remember last year. The 49ers beat those motherfuckers down. The Rams are looking fraudulent. They're looking like their Super Bowl hangover is going to last years. Like you think, oh, you know what? The team, they just won the Super Bowl. Give it a couple of weeks. And it's like, okay, I understand that because I've watched the NFL for a while. Teams start slow, typically after the Super Bowl. The Bengals starting slow. It's okay. The Rams will catch up. Are they going to catch up? Like, I don't know. Now, I don't want to say that Stafford's like done or something, but I mean, we haven't talked about the Rams yet, so I guess we'll get to that when we do, but not looking the best. If you're watching the podcast, I'm kind of shaking you're watching the podcast, you're listening to the podcast, I'm kind of shaking my head a little bit. Jeff Wilson Jr., JWJ of the San Francisco 49ers, has been looking great. He's been looking great. Seems like they don't want to use Jordan Mason. It seems like Kyle Juszczyk, the fullback. If you can spell Kyle Juszczyk without actually looking at his name, that is impressive. I had to check like on the screen multiple times, like, oh shit, did I Juszczyk? And I'm like looking at my other screen, like, oh, did I spell this right? Maybe it's even spelled wrong now, but I triple checked it like 50 times. Seems like he's the number 2 back. Jeff Wilson's the guy. The Panthers defense is not very good. Jeff Wilson should have a fantastic showing. Christian McCaffrey, even with Baker Mayfield being a trash can at the quarterback position, Christian McCaffrey is still eating a full Thanksgiving buffet. He's eating a fucking 5-course meal back there. I saw the dumbest thing on Twitter today. Now, I don't know how many of you guys use Twitter. If you do, follow me at Notorious FNTSY. But one of these guys tweeted, and I don't want to give them publicity because I thought this was the dumbest tweet I've ever seen. Like, hey, if you take away Christian McCaffrey's receptions, he's actually not doing good this year. Okay. If you take away Lamar Jackson's rushing yards, he's not as good of a quarterback. If you take away Deebo Samuel's receiving yards, he's not as good as a receiver. No shit. That is the dumbest argument I've ever read in my life. Dumbest argument ever. Christian McCaffrey, why we like him is because of the pass catching. We like him because he's a receiver and a running back together. Like that meme of the 2 guys giving a handshake. That is McCaffrey. Running back, wide receiver together, handshake. So don't panic about McCaffrey. I know things could be better maybe with a different quarterback, but even with Baker, Christian McCaffrey is still looking solid. Donta Foreman, Chuba Hubbard are the other running backs for the Panthers, but unless McCaffrey gets hurt again, knock on wood, then they're not useful at all. Next up, we move to the Philadelphia Eagles at the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I talked about this in the wide receiver video from earlier today, so if you missed that video, go back and watch that. Not yet, though. Watch this whole thing, but go back and watch that. I thought that was a good video. I talked a lot about the Cardinals and like how it's confusing how this team normally starts off on the right foot. They started off on the left foot, I guess, the wrong foot, because they haven't been looking the best. They beat the Panthers, but I wasn't impressed. Like, they let the Panthers hold on to the game. It made no sense. The Cardinals have been very weird this year. James Conner hasn't been good. I was one of the biggest, maybe even the biggest, the numero uno, James Conner fucking fanboy. I was touting James Conner so hard in the offseason, and he's not looking the best. Again, I'm not just saying that you need to cut him or something, or that you need to sit him, because he still has the upside to be an upper echelon running back. And maybe when DeAndre Hopkins returns, this whole offense goes into fucking Super Saiyan mode and they just upgrade to the next level. But right now, I'm kind of worried about Conner. Now, I'm still starting him with confidence. I definitely would prefer to start Conner over Sanders, but I don't think that's really saying much, to be honest. Sanders had a great game last week up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, so I'm not trying to just say, oh my God, Sanders sucks. That was just luck, right? It's not luck, but Sanders hasn't looked bad this year. I'm just saying I feel more comfortable with Conner. I think Conner's the better player. That's kind of all I'm getting to here, but Sanders is definitely start worthy. He's a guy I didn't really draft at all this season. Wrong on him, but again, you're not going to be right on fucking everything. Just like in these videos, like I might have just said I like Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders might get 3 yards in this game. You know, some things happen, right? I'm not going to be right every single time. No one's right every single time, so it'd be crazy to assume that. But I do think Sanders plays decent up against the Cardinals defense. Kenneth Walker is still involved. Boston Scott's still involved. But Sanders is the guy. James Conner has some other running backs behind him as well, like Eno Benjamin. But again, Conner is also the guy. Next up, we got the Dallas Cowboys at the LA Rams. Dak Prescott. There was kind of some talkings like, oh, maybe not James Conner. Maybe Dak Prescott gonna play on Sunday. Maybe, ooh, spooky ghost is saying this, and then no, he's not gonna play. Cooper Rush is going to play. Look, I've said a lot of things about Zeke. And I think we need another term to describe how slow this guy is. I think I've said it's like watching a guy run in quicksand. I've said Zeke runs as fast as old people fuck. Or Zeke runs like a turtle. I don't even know. Like, what other bad terms could we use to describe Zeke? Like what is he as fast as or as slow as? Because it's like embarrassing. Like, why do they keep trying to give him the ball? Like, Mike McCarthy, you fat bastard. Like, what are you thinking? Jerry Jones, what are you thinking? Why are you giving the fucking ball to Zeke? Now I understand. Oh, we gave him all that money. Who fucking cares? You shouldn't have given him the money in the first place, man. Zeke is awful. Zeke is fucking washed. And I said the same thing about Debo, right? Last week, if you guys remember, I was like, oh, man, Debo's looking average. He's not looking the best. And then Debo fucking slung down the greatest touchdown of the season on us. So, but I didn't think Debo was actually bad. I do think Zeke's actually bad, though. No bueno for Zeke. Tony Pollard does look better, but I'm not starting either of them, especially up against the Rams defense. Now we got Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson. Cam Akers still getting more touches. Like, oh, he passed up Henderson. This Rams offense is laughably bad. Laughably bad. Like, if the ball doesn't go to Cooper Kupp, like, you better believe it's either an incompletion or, like, a 2-yard gain. Like, Cam Akers doesn't look good. Henderson doesn't look great. Like, I still think Henderson's the better back than Akers, but not by a substantial amount. And it's just weird. Like, the Super Bowl hangover is unreal. Like, the Rams fucking chugged fucking 230 racks of Bud Light or something. And they're hungover because of that. But if you did that, you'd probably be in the hospital. And that's what it feels like watching the Rams games. Like, you're in the hospital. Like, you're getting your eyes fucking battered in by some glass. Like, I don't want to give a spoiler to Game of Thrones, so never mind. But Darrell Henderson, Cam Akers, Tony Pollard, Ezekiel Elliott. Oh, how the fuck do you yawn? I tried to do the yawn, but whatever. Yawn. Audible yawn. Just awful. Just awful. Next up, we get the Bengals at the Ravens for Sunday Night Football. Now, J.K. Dobbins has his welcome back party against the Bills, scoring not once, but a 2 touchdowns. Yo soy fiesta in the end zone. Great game out of Dobbins. Fantastic. Amazing. But now it appears Edwards is back. So while Justice Hill and Mike Davis, Kenyon Drake don't concern me, Gus Edwards does. Now, I'm not saying to panic and fucking sell J.K. Dobbins for a half-eaten bag of fucking potato chips, but what I'm saying is that Gus Edwards is a legitimate threat. He could legitimately take away touches from Dobbins. Now, he's just coming off the injury. He might not even play this week, so I'm not saying to sit Dobbins. I'm just saying that when Edwards does return, that I am somewhat panicked about it. I'm still going to start Dobbins. I'm still going to tout Dobbins higher than Edwards. I think you'd be crazy to do something else. But Edwards, like, there's already the Dobbins threat that Lamar steals the touchdown. So now there's even more of a threat when Edwards returns. But I'm still starting Dobbins, just not immensely confident if Edwards is back. But this week, I'll say it, this week I'm confident in him. But once Edwards is like fully back, then I'm going to be kind of worried. Joe Mixon of the Cincinnati Bengals last week, like, dude, like, Zach Taylor must be off the ayahuasca like Aaron Rodgers. I don't know what the fuck this guy's doing. Like, look, we have T.H. Higgins. Look, we have fucking Jamar Chase. Hit the fucking gritty. We have Tyler Boyd. We have Hayden Hurst. And yet we're running the ball for 2 fucking yards with Joe Mixon. The Dolphins defense literally was audibly coming in their pants when jizzed in my pants, fucking Lonely Island style, when Joe Mixon would get the ball because they weren't going to gain any yards. They were not going to do anything. Yet Zach Taylor Just fucking closes his eyes and says, fuck it, Joe Mixon again. It's like playing up against a fucking 7-year-old in Madden. It's embarrassing. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, Mixon has this talk with the O-line, like, oh, blah, blah, blah. Like, telling the O-line to block better is going to work. Like, Joe Mixon, it's also kind of your fault as well. The line has looked much better. I'm still going to play Joe Mixon even after this whole rant, but man, oh man, Joe Mixon looked bad last game. Samaje Perine is a sit. Next up, we move to Monday Night Football with the, turn your volume down real quick, with the Las Vegas Raiders going up against the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. My boy, Josh Jacobs. Now I didn't actually tout Josh Jacobs that hard this offseason because I was really worried, or I've said tout a lot, so I guess I haven't really, if you don't know what that means, like, which I assume you do, I mean, like, I didn't highly talk up Josh Jacobs. And that's because I worried a lot about the fact that Josh McDaniels, the stooge head coach of the team, wants to use RBBC, running back by committee. But I think what Josh Jacobs did last week to the Denver Broncos, where he sung sweet nothings into their ear as he fucked them relentlessly into the night, that they have to give Jacobs the bell cow role. They just have to. He's also at the end of his contract. They're not going to bring him back. So why not just run him into the dirt now? Obviously, it's terrible for Josh Jacobs, the human. You know, don't want to see him get fucking hurt or something in the future because of it. But hey, at the end of the day, we're talking about fantasy. They could just run him into the dirt and then get rid of him next year. That's what I thought they should do. Now, the matchup against the Chiefs isn't the best, but I still think Josh Jacobs gets it done. Clyde Edwards-Helaire continues to not see a lot of work, but he continues to score. And my favorite part about Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who I talked a lot about in the offseason liking, is when he scores, he does the fucking Jordan shrug. He hits him with the Jordan shrug. He's like, oh, what happened? Everyone turned their back on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Now, I understand the last 2 years he burned you, but he was getting such a discount, like on Underdog, the sponsor of today's video. The motherfucker was going in like the 9th round. I have so much Clyde Edwards-Helaire. 9th round. He was a no-brainer pick there. But still, people are scared to draft him. Bunch of idiots. Clyde Edwards-Helaire season, baby. I like him. They're going to use McKinnon. They're going to use Pacheco. But Edwards-Helaire is the guy. Brandon Bolden, McKinnon, they're both sits for me. So thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. If you did end up enjoying, make sure that you hit that like button down below, as well as hitting that subscribe button. It would help me out a ton. If you do want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFNTSY. And if you have any questions about week number 5, please make sure that you ask them down below in the comment section. I love you guys all so much. I hope you all have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, hit that outro. Good boy!